New episode of You and the Law podcast, the one and only law enforcement podcast that's tackling critical policing and social justice issues and provides insights into the daily realities of policing with your host, Chief Virgil Green.
Hey, I want to welcome everybody to You and the Law podcast, the podcast where we dive into real conversations about leadership, community, and the human side of law enforcement and public safety. I'm your host, Chief Virgil Green, and today we're talking about something every first responder faces, but too few talk about: recognizing the early warning signs of trauma behind the badge, the turnout gear, or the medic uniform. There is a human being who carries the weight of what they see every day. And sometimes that weight starts to show in ways we don't even notice. So today, joining me is someone who has dedicated his career to helping first responders protect their mental health and wellness. And I've got on my guest, Captain Dan Willis, who's a retired police captain and author of the book, Bulletproof Spirit, the first responder's essential resource for protecting and healing the mind and heart. So let me bring on my guest, Captain Willis.
Hey, Virgil, how are you?
Good, sir. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for the chance to come on.
Yes, sir. And thank you for coming on You and the Law podcast and talking about this book that you have out, is Bulletproof Spirit. It's the third edition. And so tell our listeners about Captain Dan Willis, your career, and what has inspired you to write several books. And all of these books are about first responders.
Sure. Well, Virgil, I put myself through the police academy back in 1985 when I was 21 years old. And I came into the profession with just a lot of idealism and wanting to get the bad guys, to protect life, to be the good amidst all the bad, and basically to help people. And I mean, it was so young. And I served for 30 years. Most of my career before I started promoting was in investigations, doing crimes of violence, sexual assaults, child molest, homicide. I was a SWAT commander for several years. Taught at the police academy, interview and interrogation for a dozen years, and I was our wellness unit coordinator and peer support team leader for many years. And in 2010, my agency sent me to the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. And that, for those that don't know, that's a 10-week course for senior police management, just not from all over the country, but from all over the world.
Yeah.
And one of the classes there I took was on emotional survival and resilience issues. And that really started taking a hard look over my career. I was a lieutenant at that time, how I suffered, struggled because of the job, because of what I experienced on the job. So many of my colleagues, suicides, post-traumatic stress, people that had to leave the profession, depression, anxiety, sleep disorders. It just goes on and on and on. And I just came out of the FBI National Academy with this passion to wanting to make a difference, to bring something back to my agency. And that was the genesis for Bulletproof Spirit. I became very involved in the wellness unit and peer support, and creating just all kinds of creative initiatives to try as an agency to take better care of our people, to develop mechanisms of support from recruitment all the way to retirement and beyond.
Okay. So, Captain Willis, one of the things that I've noticed throughout my career is that this isn't something that's often talked about, especially in the academy. You don't see a lot of agencies that have a peer support for their departments, or even in the fire department. And so, is this something that the agency that you retired from, was this something that they had back then? Or because across the country, you just, like I said, some agencies have just started putting in peer support, in the last probably 5 years or maybe the last 10
Right.
years. So what's been your, can you speak on that and just how important from where you're at, how important that is?
Sure, absolutely. I served at the La Mesa Police Department, which is a suburb of San Diego.
Hmm.
And our agency was the first agency in San Diego County out of the 18 police agencies to have a peer support team. And that was back in 1995. So
Oh,
we've had a lot of experience, 30 years now. So we made a lot of mistakes over the years. We've tried all kinds of different things. And after so much time, we've kind of learned more of what tends to be more helpful and what doesn't. Uh,
hmm,
One of the new chapters in the third edition of Bulletproof is all about organizational wellness, which is really a compilation of wellness initiatives and ways to improve and enhance or even create, if you don't have one, a peer support team.
hmm.
But peer support is saving lives every day. It's absolutely essential because there's research that shows that first responders are far more likely to go to a peer than to go to a professional
Yeah,
in their distress. So if an agency doesn't have something available, something that's trusted, that's confidential, that's used, that's proactive in their development of resources and training, where are people going to go?
yeah,
Or they're going to go home, drink alone. They're going to do who knows what else. So it's absolutely essential to have a proactive, highly functioning, effective, highly engaged peer support team.
yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right, Captain. One of the things, we've, depending on where you're at across the country, I know out on the East Coast, departments like Boston, New York, um, you've heard of the choir boys where officers would get off duty and they go to a bar and they drink and, you know, nothing good really came out of that. And there was, you know, we've seen a high divorce rate amongst first responders, especially, within police officers. We've seen a high number of domestic violence. Um, but, probably 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, this probably wasn't something that a lot of people really thought about because it was just the times that we were in. Um, since your agency sounded like it was very proactive, and you said 1995.
Yes.
Yeah. And so here we are in 2025, and you just there are some agencies that are just now uh, putting peer supports programs into their departments. Have you what's your experience of dealing with agencies that have been kind of reluctant to do that, and can you speak on what are some of the things that they may have faced with that was that kind of they were moving real slow to implement some of those things?
Well, I think one of the main issues is maybe you'll have a chief or a sheriff commander who says, okay, we're going to start doing this. We have this peer support program. We have this
Yeah,
wellness program. And it just kind of fizzles out because there's no follow-up. There's no
yeah,
engagement by command staff. Um, what really, really needs to happen is to think of it as not a program because, cops here programs come and go. We'll
yeah,
get a new chief. We'll get another program. We'll get rid of the
yeah,
old one, right?
yeah.
But culture doesn't.
It does.
Philosophies don't. They can
Hmm.
grow, they can evolve, they can improve, but a culture is inherent in what we do and how we do our work and how we respond to the traumas and the distress of the profession. So it's not just something that shows up and that's it. It's something that's constantly evolving. There's got to be a consistent message from the chief or sheriff all the way down that, hey, it's okay to not be okay. Right? It's
Yeah,
okay to be distressed by what you see from this job. And I want you to talk to people. I want you to talk to peer support. I want you to talk to the wellness unit or to a
hmm,
trauma professional. I want you to get EMDR from time to time. It's you cannot get through this career without needing some help. And everyone who does any first responder job is broken in some way. In all my trainings, I've trained over 15,000 first responders in 42 states. I always start out, hey, raise your hand if you're the same person you were when you got hired. I never have a hand go up, right? We all recognize we're different because of our chosen, beloved profession. The good news is there's all kinds of proactive things and strategies we can practice daily. So that change does not become crippling. Like we can manage the stress load and we can love this career throughout its entirety and get the most out of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Captain Willis, one of the things is the culture of policing. Everybody is kind of reserved. As you just mentioned, you got a chief who says, hey, we want to do this. And then let's say that chief leaves and somebody else comes in and says, oh, we're not going to do that. It definitely starts at the top of the leadership to really be an advocate or a cheerleader for that. And like you just mentioned, it's not just a program, but it's something that is definitely going to be there when you need it. The agency that I was at in Minnesota didn't have a wellness piece when I took over the department in 2022, and I know you've heard of Cardico, the app.
Oh yeah.
And so there was some resistance because it was like, okay, so how's that going to protect my privacy? Or will the chief know? Will the assistant chief know? Or will the city manager know? Or who will know? And in my meeting with everybody was that this is something that you will talk to that health profession, and I won't know anything about it, or nobody will know anything about it, because that is very protected. And so I think once you talk to officers to let them know that this is something for them, and it's also something for their family. And that was one of the things that I really stressed to the officers was that this is going to be free to you and your family, because a husband or wife or significant other, they are dealing with the issues that you bring home. And they also need to have, if they need that somebody to talk to, they need to be able to reach out to somebody. So I think there was people hesitated, but they soon realized that this was something that I didn't need to know when you reached out to talk to someone of dealing with an issue. And like I told them, whether you're dealing with an issue related to work or at home, this is something that we're taking care of.
Right, exactly. Something that I would do from time to time to kind of demystify it all is I would show the bill. As a captain, I would get the bill from our police psychologist and EAP.
Yeah.
You say, it shows that 15 officers went for 24 hours. No, that's it. I mean, there's no names, there's no IDs, there's no time of appointment, there's nothing. And when people see that, they could, oh, okay, so I guess you guys don't really know that I went or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think, you got that comfort level, but again, it starts at the top, and it starts with, whether it's the chief or assistant chief or sergeants. And again, I think it's something that, even at roll call, I really encourage the sergeants to really find something to connect with the officers about, see how they were doing, because not everybody is going to open up. But especially if you're working at a department where you're going from call to call, you're dealing with domestics, or you're dealing with fatality accidents, or you're dealing with kids who've been abused. That is a lot to take home, and I think it's really important that officers know that they have some resources to reach out to. And you and I, we spoke before you coming on the podcast about cops. They have a conference that they host, and the first time I went to it, I was just amazed at the number of police officers from around the country that came to Oklahoma City for that conference. And talking with the executive director of cops, that there are people who come to that conference year, I don't know if it's every year, every other year, but just to be able to speak to somebody because of the things that they're dealing with, whether they've retired or they're active, that is still available to them.
Absolutely. I think, Virgil, it's really important for our people to truly understand what trauma is. And once you understand it, you'll understand the need to talk, to
Yeah.
maybe seek out a professional every once in a while. Because most first responders think a trauma is being involved in a shooting, becoming seriously hurt, a fight for your life, a riot, all these horrific experiences, which absolutely are traumatic. But this truly is the definition of trauma. It's any experience that has the potential to affect you in a seriously negative way over a long period of time. And we have those experiences, not every day, absolutely every week. Like any experience, think about your career, everybody that's listening, of those calls that just haven't gone away, like those things that had the potential and have realized some serious long-term negative effects. And once you understand that and understand we're dealing with trauma every day and understand that your brain does not get used to it. We think we get used to this stuff because we see it so much. It's just another dead kid. It's just another fatal car collision. It's just another child molest or a broken kid, a dying kid. It's just another senseless act of violence, on and on and on. Your brain does not get used to trauma. Your central nervous system, your body, your heart does not get used to trauma. So the more that we can become aware of what truly is trauma in our everyday professional service, the more you're going to be proactive and able to mitigate the effects, to be able to recover from trauma, to actually heal from it, and to be able to consistently serve what I call heart-centered service in a compassionate, meaningful way, trying to do as much good as you can with every call for service, with every interaction with people, being as helpful and useful as you can, and loving the profession. Because trauma will erode that. So that's why you got to be on top of it. And traumas will suffocate your heart. If you're an officer whose heart's suffocating, you just don't care.
Yeah.
You don't care about people. You don't care about the agency. Tend to be very ego-driven, selfish, self-centered, and you're no good to anybody like that.
Yeah, you're right. And I think, that's one of the, you definitely hit the head, right on the nail when understanding trauma is real important. And if you don't understand trauma, you're gonna have if you're gonna be in this profession for over 20 years, it's gonna be a long career because
it actually alters your brain. Your trauma experiences alter your brain, the physiology of it, and how it actually works or is impaired in its normal functioning. So it's just not something that has to do with feelings or things like that. It is a physiological thing. That trauma is not only toxic and poisonous to your brain, it's cumulative. So it keeps building up and building up over time. If you're not doing anything proactive, hopefully daily, that's what Bulletproof Spirit is so much about, daily wellness and resilience practices that we can do to release and work through those built up traumas. It can build up to the point where the processing part of your brain that deals with all your experiences and it tries to make sense out of everything and file away in your memory. That part of your brain just kind of shuts down, right? And it says, that's it. And it's like your computer. When it's got a virus or something, and it just starts acting real slow or freezes up or blue screens on you. Your brain is your computer. Now, the good news is such as treatments like EMDR, which hopefully we can get into a little bit later on the show. But there are ways to reboot your brain, just like a computer, to reboot it and restore its normal functioning. And with EMDR, that can happen with relatively few sessions, less than a dozen.
Yeah. So explain to our listeners who are not familiar with EMDR. What is EMDR?
So EMDR has been around for over 30 years. It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. EMDR. You can find out more information about it at emdria.org. And what it is Well, first, it's been endorsed by the International Association of Chiefs of Police,
Mm-hmm.
by the World Health Organization, by the VA. And like I said, it's been around for 30 years. There's a ton of science and research behind it about how it works and how it's so effective and powerful to actually heal from traumas, or at least get you to the point where you can manage your life again and sleep again and all of that. So what it is, it's a concentrated way in relatively few sessions. I've had it done, and it only took me 2 sessions to let go of an issue that bothered me off and on for 25 years. And I hear stories like that all the time. I only had to go 4 or 5 times. I only had to go 7 or 8 times. It's not talk therapy. It's not, you're not going to be going and talking to a trauma professional every week for 3 years talking about your problems. That's not it. Within a few sessions, you're going to know, and hopefully more likely than not, you're going to know that it's helping. And that, I want to keep doing this and do it a little bit more to get the benefit out of it. But it's a way for the trauma professional to reboot your brain and have it disassociate itself from all the dark thoughts and the troubling dark emotions that had entangled themselves in that memory. And what you have left is just the memory. And that memory won't bother you. It's like all your other memories that you can think about that don't bother you. So it's a way to, like I say, disassociate, reboot your brain, and restore its optimal functions.
Hey, Captain Willis, I want to remind those just now tuning into You and the Law podcast that tonight's guest is Captain Dan Willis, retired out of La Mesa Police Department.
Yes.
Is that correct?
California.
Out of the San Diego area. And he is the author of an amazing book. And if you don't have this book, you definitely need to go and find this book. It is called Bulletproof Spirit. It's the 3rd edition. It's the first responders' essential resource for protecting and healing mind and heart. So if you don't have this book in your book collection, you definitely need to reach out and get a copy of Bulletproof Spirit.
There's also an audio version.
Is it?
I know some cops have problems reading, especially if you've got post-traumatic stress. You're not going to sit and concentrate and read a book.
Yeah.
But there's an audio version too.
Yeah, well, good. Well, hey, I want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine out of the Oklahoma City area who's a retired chief as well, Jay Hill. Jay, thank you for tuning in and joining us tonight as we talk about this and a real important topic that oftentimes, as you know, Dan, is not talked about. It's kind of one of those things you just don't talk about. And I think over the last couple of years, I've definitely seen a shift in that where more people are talking about it. And so, Jay, you got a comment said, I just wanted to chime in and support the mission. Again, thanks, Jay. And so one of the things I want to ask you, Dan, is about the cost of ignoring these signs. There definitely has to be some kind of cost associated with ignoring these signs. Can you speak on that?
The cost is a deteriorating quality of life, because the effects of trauma don't just typically go away on their own. Like, we can't outlast trauma. You're not going to defeat it and force it out. If you face it, if you say something like to anybody, someone you trust, hey, something's going on inside I don't like. I might need some help. That's not that hard to say, because once we say that, now you're open, you're receptive to all the resources that are out there, such as EMDR and so many others that are so effective, proven effective to help people recover and heal, which every single first responder needs. Like, you cannot get through this profession and not be changed and not be different. You're
right. Again, and we see so many different traumatic incidents, and we've got to. And as you know, Captain Willis, there is a new generation that's coming into this profession, and a lot of people who are coming into this profession, they're not going to probably be in this profession past 10 years, especially if they don't like the department that they're working at. They're going to be there. They may go to another agency. They may go to a county sheriff department, or they may just get out of it because of just the traumatic things that they've seen. And I definitely have seen that, where an officer fresh out of the academy. They're going through FTO. They respond to, a horrible accident, or respond to, a horrible shooting or something. And after seeing this several times, they just decide that this is not a profession that they want to be in. I have a lot of respect for that, because if you don't recognize what you can take and what you can't take, and let's say you're in this profession and you're just coasting, and every single day these things build up, and at some point things are going to crash, and it may happen at home or it may happen at work. And so yeah, I don't know if you can speak on that.
Sure. Yeah, that's why it's really essential. This is what I really address in Bulletproof Spirit, is that we need to take a holistic overall approach that is just not physical health, being injured or not injured. It's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health and well-being and resilience. And all four of those components, that's what makes you a human being. That makes you a good, effective, compassionate, professional, safe first responder. And all four of those components of our humanness are interrelated and interconnected with one another. So one's going to affect all the others. So if you're a first responder and all you're doing is working out all the time and you're in great physical shape, but you're really not doing anything daily, really stress and focus on the daily practice. It's got to be daily, because every day we're experiencing traumas. But if you're not focused on the daily practice of mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness, eventually that physical health is going to be vulnerable and might start to deteriorate. If you're not practicing emotional well-being, I'll just ask the audience, you just think to yourselves, you guys know anyone on your agency who's negative? You know anyone who's bitter, who's cynical? Right, that's not a healthy place to be. Science has shown that being excessively negative and cynical depletes your immune system, impairs it. So you're more likely to get an illness or a disease. If you're not practicing mental resilience and wellness, you're not going to be able to consistently make good, sound, reasonable, rational decisions, exercise good judgment. In this profession, you got to be exercising good judgment all the time. Right? And if you don't, right? If you don't, you're going to be doing things that are going to affect your emotions, which are going to bring down the physical. So I really want to stress the spiritual wellness and resilience, because that is by far the foundation for all of this. And what I mean by that, Virgil, is spiritual wellness and resilience is your capacity to love, to be helpful, to be useful, to be driven by your heart with compassion, to make a meaningful difference. It's your ability to consistently do as much good as you can, to be the most positive influence you can with your agency, with your colleagues, in the community. It's your ability to have a higher purpose in this noble profession beyond your self-interests, your ability to be connected to the nobility of protecting life and serving people and alleviating suffering, to be connected to your colleagues and be connected to the community in meaningful ways. And it's your spiritual wellness and resilience is your ability to consistently be in the pursuit of excellence, self-improvement, right? But at the heart, it's serving with the heart to do as much good as you possibly can, and understanding this whole concept of wellness.
Yeah.
So to me, wellness is a realization that we are part of a whole, and that we're united by our shared traumas and our love for one another and our love for the profession. That's where it begins. And with that understanding, I think we become more receptive and open to understanding what this job can do to you, and working together. It's okay, what can we do about it? What do our people need? How can we address their issues? What other resources can we develop? And constantly as agencies, we should constantly be asking ourselves, what more can we do to help our people? Because the most important thing any leader does is take care of their people.
Yeah.
By far. Because if we don't take care of our people as an agency, they are never going to be able to fulfill the mission of the department and take care of the community and protect it.
Yeah, and you're going to have the men and women who will, they will ask questions, is this about me or you? What is the chief really doing to help support me? And one of the things that I've done at the agencies that I've been at, Dan, is you have to have you have to show the human side of you, because everybody thinks that, oh, you're the chief, you got the title, you go into meetings but people need to understand that you're at their level. And the one thing that I've always tried to do in my career is to let everybody know that, I'm gonna show up at roll call, even if it's at, midnight, yeah, or 11, whatever that shift is, you need to show up, and let people know that you're sincere about who they are, and how well they're being, how well they're being treated.
Right.
And one of the things and if you can afford to do it, Dan, I mean, one of the things I've done is, I'll say, hey, we've got a grill, and the grill is clean. I'll put some patties on the grill and some wieners, and we'll have a little cookout. And it's surprising how everybody's like, oh man, the chief is going to come in, he's going to cook. That doesn't happen oftentimes. And I think you really need to be able to just be able to uh, socialize with people, and that's where you're going to hear some things that you need to hear, because nobody's going to come to the chief or the assistant chief and say, hey, I've got this problem. But if you're sitting there just eating a hot dog or a hamburger, you're going to pick up on something that you can kind of come back and say, hey, listen, I kind of heard something. Is there something we need to talk about? Or, hey, have you reached out to talk to somebody to get some help? Um, and one of the things, Dan, it was almost kind of like you were reading my mind, and you know what I was going to pull up in your book. You mentioned in the book, practice your faith. How important is that to this conversation as we talk about your book, Bulletproof Spirit?
Uh, it's essential, but when people hear that, it's going to mean different things and will resonate
Exactly.
differently with different people. When I was explaining spiritual wellness and resilience, I didn't use the word faith or
Hmm.
religion or anything. If that happens to be part of who you are, it is for me. Is one of the main things that helped me get through my career. If that happens to be a part of your background, use it. Right? Don't ignore it. Use it as another tool in the tool belt to help understand what we deal with, and to use prayer and respond to challenges through whatever faith you happen to be. But people have faith in something. Because even people who don't believe in God, that's a faith. Like I'm certain there's no God, right? So people have
Yeah.
a faith that maybe all people are bad. Everyone deserves to be in prison. I hate my job. I hate people, right? That's a faith.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
a faith to me is just something that deeply moves you and motivates you and inspires you. And it can do that in positive, meaningful ways or negative ways that are not going to be productive of health and wellness for yourself. So
Yeah.
I just offer for people to think about, what is it that you really have faith in?
Hmm.
If it happens to be any type of spiritual practice, meditation, belief, use it to help yourself. If it's something that is more negative, right, then take a look at it, because we got control over that. We can control how we think about things, what inspires us, what motivates us, where we draw uh, we draw hope from, and all of those things are important to your inner spirit, and that's all part of spiritual wellness.
Yeah. One thing, Dan, that you touched on is, officers sometimes they can get caught up in the things that's going on that they can't really control, whether it's within the police department or within the city, whether they've got a gripe with the city manager or the mayor or whatever the politics is going on. Um, that can erode at an officer's wellness, because you're spending so much time complaining about, well, they don't care about us, they haven't given us a raise, or I hate working here, or whatever it may be. And I've told officers that there are some things that's what the chief is to that's what his role is to take care of that. because they can sit around and talk about it. It's not going to change anything. But what it's going to do is it's going to build up a certain level of anger and dislike. And that's just not good. I mean, there are just some things that you cannot control, but oftentimes I've seen where officers get a little bit too close to some of the politics, and that's not healthy. And so, yeah, go ahead.
Well, for optimal mental health, Virgil, it is really, I'm glad you brought this up because it's really an essential aspect. So much of our stress, we have enough stress and trauma out dealing with radio calls and dealing with the public, right?
Yeah.
We don't need to put all this additional stress upon ourselves. And how do we do that? By trying to change things we can't change, by worrying about things that are never going to be different, that you have no influence over, that you can't control. When you try to control something, it's going to end up controlling you, right? We can't control a spouse. You can't control a kid. You can't control what the chief does. You can't control what retirement you're going to have. You can't control how you're treated by other people. Like all these things, you only got control over how you respond to things, how you treat people, how professional and compassionate and kind we are in our service, how helpful and useful. So I can only think of about 4 or 5 things that we have absolute control over. And when you feel yourself kind of stressed or maybe even depressed, worried about something, this is also a practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness, by the way, is one of the most effective ways to enhance daily mental resilience. But a practice of mindfulness is taking a moment when you're in that distressed state and just ask yourself, can I do anything about that right now, right in this moment? 99 times out of 100, your answer is going to be no. I mean, if it's yes, then good. You can go do something. Then you're actually being proactive and constructive. But almost always in that moment right now, it's no, I can't do anything about that. And with that realization, it becomes a lot easier just to let something go and not just dwell on it and let it eat you alive. So what can you control? You got control of the kind of person you are, your integrity and your professionalism and heart. You got control over your attitude, whether it's positive and constructive, spiritual, useful, or negative and defeatist, pessimistic, right? All those things are really going to drain energy and affect the workings of your mind. You have control over how you choose to respond to people, how you choose to respond to a situation, and you got control over how you spend your free time and maybe what you eat. I mean that's all. This is very limited.
Yeah.
And the more we focus on these few things, I mean, the main one is the kind of person you are and how you respond to life's challenges and opportunities.
Yeah.
That's 1000% completely in our control. And yeah, bad things, sometimes horrible, sometimes horrific things are going to happen, unfair things. But when you look at it as, hey, everything shows up to make me better. Every experience is an opportunity to practice and engage resilience, to mindfully and thoughtfully think, okay, what can I do? What good can I do because of this disturbing thing that happened to me? Like, how can I respond in a way that's going to foster greater resilience? What lesson can I learn? So maybe I can help somebody else go through the exact same thing. Right? If that's all resilience is. It's a mental reframing and not just instinctively reacting to things, but in that practice of mindfulness, taking a moment and thoughtfully responding in ways that are going to be helpful and useful to yourself and other people.
Yeah. Well, Rick, Dan, we've got a comment in the chat from Rick, who is watching and listening on LinkedIn. And Rick is a real good friend. Rick, again, thank you for tuning in on LinkedIn. And he puts in the chat that focus on what you have control of or influence what you have influence over. And so, again, oftentimes so many officers, there are things that they cannot control, or they just don't have any. They think they have some influence over it. It could be, you could, thinking about this, Dan, you can arrest this person multiple times, and now you're getting kind of ticked off that the court's not doing anything. The guy just keeps getting out of jail. that's the court. You really don't have any control over that. And at some point, the same person that you've dealt with multiple times, you may end up doing something pretty stupid, and you're going to lose control over your behavior, and that's not good. And I think that's
exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I would tell officers, hey, you can't control what the court does, whether the DA issues a case or not, what your supervisor does, what the sentence is of a convicted felon. Nothing. You have no control of whether somebody chooses to change their life or not. All we can do is our very best, most professional, effective service. And maybe on the 20th arrest, this homeless drug addict is going to go to rehab and change his life. Like, it happens. So I've seen it happen. There's people I've arrested who come in and thank me. There's homeless drug addicts, alcoholics that have been on the street for 20, 30 years that got their life changed around. I mean, it happens. Not an everyday thing, but it happens. It would have never happened in my cases if I didn't care. If I didn't get 20th arrest, right? So it's always the effort of trying to do as much good as you can and focusing on that. And the outcomes we can't control. You can control your effort. When we lose the effort, when we don't care, when we do things half-hearted, when we just kind of shut down, when we skip corners, that is going to significantly affect you, your health, and your overall quality of professional service and life more than you can imagine.
It will. It definitely will. Hey, Captain Willis, I want to remind those if you're just now tuning into the podcast, You and the Law podcast, that tonight I've got on, my guest is Captain Dan Willis, retired from the La Mesa Police Department in the San Diego area. And he is the author of a real inspiring book called Bulletproof Spirit. And this is the third edition of his book. And so, Captain Willis, one of the things I really want to kind of go back and talk on, suicide, committing suicide is one of the leading causes of death in law enforcement. And I want to say over 200 officers commit suicide every year. Can you kind of speak on that? Because over the last, I'm going to say just in the last year, I have seen an alarming number of officers taking their lives. And some agencies, and I know one agency in the Houston area, they've been hit pretty hard because they kind of had two situations where they lost two members of their departments from suicide. And here we are, 2024, 2025, and so many different agencies are talking about peer supports, and there's so much more resources out there. What do you think from your experience? What is the leading cause of this here? And what can families do and agencies do to recognize some of the early warning signs?
Well, I'll just mention some of the early warning signs here. I go into a lot more detail in the book, but usually sleep is the first thing that goes, right? When you're sleeping a couple hours a night, when you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. Early morning, wake up. And you don't have to have nightmares or anything, but just not getting sleep is absolutely essential for your brain to function and to deal with stress. So that's one of the first things that tends to go when traumas are building up, when you're mismanaging maybe the stress load, is you're going to have problems sleeping. And on average, cops sleep about 4 hours a night, 4 hours a day. You can't function
that's not
on
good.
that.
No.
Another warning sign is anger, being angry all the time, having a short fuse. Find yourself just yelling at your kids, your spouse, at people, things that would never even bother you before, but you're just constantly agitated, constantly on edge. Another one is drinking too much. When you're in a profession that deals with daily traumas, drinking is absolutely the most worst thing you could ever do, because alcohol will completely cripple your brain's ability to recover and heal and respond to traumas. So drinking or taking other substances too much. Shutting down. How work affected me more than anything else is becoming what I call emotionally dead, where I couldn't really feel anymore. I was kind of flatlined to life. I wasn't really ever happy. Wasn't ever really sad. I'm just kind of there. My ex-wife would say, "You're here, but you're not here."
Yeah.
Right? And I had no idea what she was talking about. I do now, right? And it just kind of developing that callousness and a general lack of caring, unable to communicate. She also said I talked in 1 or 2 word sentences. But that's not normal, but it can be common for us, as the traumas build up and we just shut down. The symptoms go on and on and on. The main thing is to make yourself aware, and your loved ones, the people closest to you, so they can tell you, because often we don't recognize it. We don't see it in ourselves.
Yeah.
And become aware of some of the warning signs. It's never too late, but the sooner you're on top of something and trying to address it and work through it and heal it, the easier it is. Right? The less time it's probably going to take to get to the other side. So self-awareness is absolutely critical for overall wellness and resilience in our profession. And suicide, you're talking about suicide, Virgil, it's the #1 cause of death every single year. It's more than all the other causes of death combined.
Yeah.
Year in and year out. I was just going to mention those 180 or 200 or so officers that killed themselves last year. If they ever heard a conversation like this or read Bulletproof Spirit, I'm sure they would have thought what all your listeners are thinking right now. Hey, there's nothing that could ever happen that could make me take my own life. I have way too much to live for. And every single one of them did it. And that's the power trauma can have when it injures, when shocks, hijacks your brain and turns you into someone your loved ones don't recognize anymore. Maybe somebody you don't recognize. So self-awareness is absolutely critical. Having a support, having somebody that you can trust and actually talk to, someone who will listen to you, that's not going to judge you, make you feel bad or wrong or weak because you're sharing a distressing experience, and to have an organization that actually supports you, that all the supervisors and managers see their primary role as being your primary care resource. That means being more concerned with how the job might be affecting you than how you did your job.
Yeah.
We start getting every sergeant, every supervisor, leader more concerned with how the job's affecting our people than how they just did their job. We're going to stop losing so many people to suicide.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it's something that, and I'm going to ask you this, this may be a whole nother podcast show topic. How can you, and we're talking about recognizing the signs, but oftentimes do you think if people are recognizing the signs that they're ignoring the signs, and then when something happens, they kind of go back and say, "Oh man, I wished I would have said something," because now it's too late. And I think and again, it kind of goes to the culture that we're in. It's a culture that you don't want to, invade somebody's privacy, or you don't want to call somebody out on something. But I think if a sergeant sees something going on with an officer, or a lieutenant sees something going on with a sergeant, or a chief sees something going on with a member of the department, that's the time to really start having some conversations about, what's going on at home or what's going on within the agency, because people will, and all of a sudden people feel like they're isolated and they don't have a way out, and this is their way out.
Right. That's one of the components of the spiritual wellness I was talking about, is being connected, right? Being connected to the agency, to the purpose, being connected to your brothers and sisters that you serve with. Because that's one of the big triggers, is feeling disconnected and that nobody cares, nobody noticed. How could no one ever come up to me and say, "Hey, what's going on?" Right? Mm-hmm. So why not? Well, it's in that role of being a primary care resource, people You don't have to be a supervisor for that, colleagues. Somebody had a pretty bad call. You go up and ask them, hey, are you okay? That was a pretty bad call, right? What are they going to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah.
And 99% of us just leave it at that. You can't, right? You got to
Right.
pierce through the culture. So I always tell people, well, just grab their forearm and say, no, hey, wait, that was really bad. That bothered me. Are you sure you're okay?
Yeah.
Because when you ask it like that a second time, you're kind of giving them permission to say, yeah, you're right, boss. That was kind of screwed up. And then you can have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And one of the comments that's in the chat from Rick, he says one of the deadliest phrases in law enforcement is "I'm good" or "I'm living the dream," as your world is crumbling. And he puts that cop culture does not allow cops to be honest when struggling with emotional signs of weakness.
That's absolutely true. And we change that one officer at a time. We change that one proactive, positive engagement with our people at a time, not just engaging them to check up on them or to discipline them or tell them what to do, but routinely have those positive engagements of connection. It's all about connection and reaching out to people. So you will notice, right? If you're not connected to your people, you're going to have no idea when they're not themselves. Right, when they're just kind of off a little bit. And with those positive daily engagements, you're not prying into people's lives. You're just being human, right? You're just relating to a brother or a sister you're serving with. You're just checking in on them. You're just making sure everyone's okay, right? You're just making sure no one needs a little extra help. And if they do, that's okay. We're here to make sure everyone gets to being whole again, so we can be our best for the people that need us. But that's got to be the constant mindset and the effort from the chief all the way down.
Yeah. Well, and Captain Willis, one of the things that has always bothered me is that, especially when you hear of an officer who's you know took their own life, what was going on? What was so traumatic that was their only way to escape whatever type of trauma that they were dealing with? And did they think about their family? Did they think about their agency, or did they think about the people that they, a citizen that you become real good friends with? Because, and this is something that's not often really talked about. And this is something that happened in Minnesota not too long ago, a couple of weeks, about a little over a month ago, where an officer took his own life. He was a school resource officer. It sounded like he had a very good relationship with students and former students who could not believe that this officer took his life. And now here you have people who were real close to this officer. They've got to deal with that trauma because they don't know why this person that they had a good relationship with took his life. And
Right.
and again, it kind of goes back to something I want to talk ask you about, is that family and peer awareness. Can you kind of speak on the family and peer awareness of, we may have already kind of covered this a little bit, but there's some signs that are there, but how important do you think it is for the family to step up and say, to make somebody aware of some things that's going on inside the home?
That's essential. Just before I get to that, I want to say just real quickly, Virgil, that suicide, and I hope as a profession we can really brace this in the culture. Suicide is absolutely 100% a work casualty.
Yeah.
Completely. It is an absolute work casualty. The one main thing trauma does is eat away at our ability to be resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And when you lose the ability to be resilient, to move on with your life during difficult times and challenges and see yourself through the other side, you lose the ability to do that, because what we see day in and day out, when life happens, like a divorce, or maybe your fifth IA in a week, or maybe who knows what else, we just snap. So traumas kill us, not just from being assaulted, but from suicide, from losing hope. from having our resilience eroded, and on and on and on. It's absolutely a work casualty. And as far as families, it's essential for families to be involved. We would send information home often to families about warning signs. Hey, if your law enforcement mate exhibits this or does that or is doing all these things, here's a number you can call at the police department. You don't have to go through them. Here's our peer support. Here's our chaplain, right? Here's some other resources. Here's the police psychologist. Hey, you as a spouse gets X amount of free or reduced rates of professional care. Your kids, right? Let the families know the resources are available, how to contact them on their own. They don't have to go through their law enforcement. Have them come to the department, have family training days, have veteran spouses talk about, the changes they've seen in their law enforcement partners over the years, and what did they do about it, and how did they help them heal and recover from a bad shift. It's just really unlimited with the creative ways that we can provide information, resources, and training and help and support, not just to our officers and our people, but to their families who are really on the front line of the support.
Yeah. Well, Captain Willis, I mentioned this to you, with me being from the Oklahoma City area, the Oklahoma City Police Department has a very good peer support that they have with retired and active members of the department and spouses. And there is an organization that's called the Warriors Rest Foundation, and it was founded by I believe he retired from the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, and the amount of support that they provide to officers on duty, off duty, it's amazing. And even showing up at a critical incident, I remember, Dan, about maybe a little over a year ago in Oklahoma City, there was a father who Facebook Live took the life of his children and himself. And the officers responded to a neighbor was walking down the street and noticed this vehicle and noticed something coming out of the vehicle, and approached the vehicle and noticed a scene that people just shouldn't have witnessed. The officers responded to the call. And as you know, we all have kids. And that's one of the worst things an officer or first responder can deal with, is respond to a very critical incident where, kids have lost their life, and you're trying to figure out why. There's so many questions as to why would this, then you find out it was the father who did it. And so a part of their peer support, real good friends of mine, Tracy and Keith DeRoy, they responded. They brought pizzas out to the officers because the officers going to be out there for a very long time at this crime scene. And you got citizens who are bringing, whether Gatorade or water. That to me is the type of peer support, especially in a critical incident like that, because you've got to go home to your own kids. And now you were at a call where a father took the life of 3 of his kids. And that's something that you can't say, you can't walk away from that and say, oh, I'm good, I'm living the dream. There's nothing good about that.
Right. But a couple things real quick. I know we're running a little short on time, but what you can do and what we really need to do in those horrific cases is say, when you're by yourself, okay, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I'm not okay. What am I feeling right now? What can I do about it? Okay, take a shower, go for a run, work out, get some good sleep, whatever. And you just kind of have a checklist. There's a checklist in Bulletproof Spirit of how to respond in those really distressing calls, for sure. And it doesn't have to be some major thing for peer support. One of the most significant things that we experienced, we had a guy rack a shotgun round and pointed at 6 officers. He had been threatening to kill his wife and blow up his kids, the shotgun, and all the officers shot and killed him. First officer to the scene, he ended up getting blood all over head to toe. He was the one that had to go find the kids to try and make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
And the little kid says, "Is my daddy all right?" And he just kind of, "Well, stay in this room and it'll be okay." And when he walked out, he had this panic attack. He couldn't breathe, and he was grabbing onto a rail. His knees were buckling. He's thinking, "Am I having a heart attack?" And a lieutenant sees this, and all he did, this is all it takes. He comes up to him and puts his arms around his shoulder and says, "Hey, Tim, why don't you come over to my car? Let's wash off some of that blood."
Yeah.
That's all he said and did. And that officer credits that with the beginning of what our agency did over the next couple of years that really saved his life. Just simple things like that, showing you actually care about one another.
Yeah. Well, Captain Willis, this is, hopefully I can get you to come back on the podcast. Because again,
Sure,
I think this is something that I know over the course of our podcast, we've been on for 5 years now, that this is a topic that is real important. We have a lot of law enforcement people who listen to the podcast or who will listen to it at some point. And so, I definitely would like to get you to come back on to talk more about your book. I know there's some things that we didn't even scratch the surface on in an hour, but I would definitely love to invite you to come back on to talk more about Bulletproof Spirit and some of the things that we were not able to talk about tonight, because, like I said, this is the more we talk about it, the more that I feel that it will help somebody. And if it just helps one person, you and I, we've done our job to raise the awareness of talking about mental health and wellness in police departments. And as 75% of our police departments across the country are 10-man police departments and under. And they may not have the resources to send people to mental health training, or they may not have the resources to have a Cortico app or to have any kind of wellness.
But something these smaller agencies can do is develop I talk about in the book, a regional peer support team that draws on collectively all the departments.
Yeah. Well, and it is good you brought that up, because that's something I definitely want to, when we get you to come back on, because if you don't, people they say, well, we can't do it, we don't have the money. But when you bring in all the resources together, whether it's the county sheriff department, the police department, or even your EMS, your other first responders, or even a volunteer fire departments, if you bring all these people in, because we're all responding to the same type of incidents. And so I think, again, it's real important. And as you just mentioned, if you can't do something locally, look at collectively doing it, collaborating with others to do it as a regional type of peer support.
We're all united by our shared trauma. It doesn't matter what type of first responder you are.
No, it doesn't matter.
Even corrections, right? Corrections, all of that.
Well, and and that's something else, Captain Willis, correction officers, they also have a high suicide rate.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
of what they're dealing with inside of the prison walls, because there's a lot of things that they have to deal with, and they don't oftentimes think of themselves as a first responder. And so this has been a great conversation. I'm glad that people that you're connected with reached out to me to tell me about you, to get you to invite you to come on the podcast. So I'm definitely going to be reaching out to you again, and we may have to do a couple of series on Bulletproof Spirit, and because, again, I think it's just something that we need to talk about more, and kind of break down those barriers to talk about wellness.
Yeah, I'd love to come back, Virgil. If anyone's interested in the book or me coming out to your area for training, firstresponderwellness.com.
Yeah, and again, let everybody know, where they can find the book at, and how they can get in contact with you.
Right, that's all right at First Responder. First is spelled out FIRST, so firstresponderwellness.com.
And that's where they can find the book?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right then. Well, Captain Willis, it's been a pleasure, sir. And I will definitely be reaching out to you or members of your team to try to get you to come back on and again talk more about your book, Bulletproof Spirit. But I want to thank Rick and Jay. We got another comment. We can go over just a little bit, Captain. We're not too tight on time. I want to see. I think we've got another comment in the chat that I want to get to. Kind of took you off screen there, but thought we had another. Oh, well, Rick puts in the chat that many police departments show their support of their cops at officers' funeral. That's a, he puts shame. I mean, that's not the time to really recognize the efforts of men and women at a funeral.
Absolutely.
So, but I want to thank Rick and Jay and everybody else who were tuned in on LinkedIn, and those who are tuned in on YouTube and Facebook as well. Thank you for tuning in tonight for this very important topic as we talk about officer wellness and the book by Captain Dan Willis, Bulletproof Spirit. So, Captain Willis, again, I want to thank you, and we will get together again and have a lot more in-depth conversations about your book and how important this book is to everybody who is a first responder.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. Thank you, Virgil.
All right. Thank you. And again, make sure you tune in. If you missed any parts of this episode tonight, you can catch the audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and if you the video version will be on YouTube. If you're not a subscriber to You and the Law podcast, go to our YouTube page, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, and tell a friend about You and the Law podcast. And again, Captain, it's been a pleasure having you on, and everybody who tuned in tonight, thank you. And make sure now next week is Thanksgiving holiday, and I know everybody's going to be eating a lot of turkey and all the other trimmings. So we're going to be taking off next Thursday, but we're definitely going to be coming back on after the Thanksgiving holiday. But Captain Willis, to you and your family, wish you all a good Thanksgiving. And all those who are out there listening, have a safe and Thanksgiving holiday weekend. And we will be back the following week for definitely another informative topic on You and the Law podcast. Everybody have a good night.
That's a wrap on this episode of You and the Law podcast. We've got more eye-opening conversations and hard-hitting insights coming your way, so make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and stay ready because the next episode might just change the way you see law enforcement forever.